Hi guys, how's everyone doing? As everyone's getting in, if you have questions, please let me know. Anyone have any questions or anything that they want to talk about as everyone's getting on? Hello. Hi, Haley. All right, guys. I'll give it one more minute and then I'm going to get started. Again, if you have questions, now's a good time to ask. There's a couple things I want to go over today. All right, sorry, there's this glare in the background. It's annoying me. All right, so one thing, I put up a question in the question and whatever forum. Let me pull it up. I'm going to share my screen. To ask you guys if you're okay with meeting at 12:30. So maybe even just right now, if anyone has an issue with it, let me know. Meeting at 12:30 moving forward. It's only Thursday and then next week are the last two meetings. So we have three more, right? Thursday and then Tuesday and Thursday next week. And then the following week is just your final exam. So I'll let you know when that final exam is going to be available. But is everyone okay with meeting at 12:30 instead of 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. What I want you to do, just to sort of confirm, I'm sure it's probably doesn't make much of a difference. It's a half an hour. And this is also for attendance this week. Go on to Moodle. You guys can see my screen, right? If you go on to Moodle course question and answer forum, it says attendance for today. Just let me know that that's okay. All right. People already replied. Thank you. Okay. Let me know that's fine. And then we'll be good to go. All right. So that's the first thing. Next thing is, let me just move this out of the way. I guess it always sort of start with some reminders. Chapter 35, 36 homework was due today, so I'll probably go over that quickly, although I think I already went over chapter 35. So maybe I'll, and I think I kind of went over chapter 36 already as well. So like I said, I'll just kind of go over that quickly and then also allow you guys to ask questions if you have any questions about those two chapters. The homework is due now. I did change the settings. Esperanza, you should be able to upload multiple files. So if you have, if you did it by hand and then you took multiple pictures, I changed the settings that you can basically upload 20 files. So there shouldn't be a problem, but let me know if there still is. For this week, what we're basically covering is chapter 37, which is neurons and nervous system. So nervous system. And I did tell you last week, and I also think I told you in the email, that within that chapter, I'm going to have you guys do a little quiz in terms of identifying brain parts. So I'm going to go over that part of it here during our Zoom meeting, but then I'll also do it again when I post the recording. Okay. So after I get off with you guys, I'm going to basically record the lecture for chapter 37. So that should be up. That'll be up by the end of the day today. I'll also go over the brain regions there as well, but I wanted to go over the brain regions kind of quickly with you guys today, maybe not quickly, but go over them with you, show you what figures essentially I'll use on the quiz. And then I should have a quiz up. I mean, I'll definitely have a quiz up by Thursday, but I'll probably be up by tomorrow. And originally I said you would have like until the end of the day, Friday, to do it. I may just give you an extra day or two. Maybe it'll be due by Sunday or something like that. But that'll be, just be on the lookout for that. Honestly, it'll probably be 10 questions. It could even be less, probably about 10 questions just to identify different brain parts. Okay. So, and then, like I said, I think I said this last week, I'll also do the same thing for identifying bones and muscles. So I'll do it the same way. I'll probably just introduce it with you guys over Zoom on Tuesday next week, but then I'll also do it in the recorded lecture. Okay. Does anyone have a question about that?
Nope.
Okay. So again, chapter 37 homework is due on Thursday. Okay, like I said, I will post that recorded lecture by the end of the day today. That homework should be in Thursday. Again, I want you guys to stay, you know, on pace so that you're not cramming everything in right before the final exam. Okay, I will let you know when that final exam will be available. This lab practical 10 and 11 that you see here, obviously ignore that. That was if we were in lab, which we're not. But the final exam is chapter 35, 36, 37, and 39. Okay. One other thing, I graded, I mean, I hope you guys all saw your grades. You should be able to see your, whatever your current grade is on Moodle is accurate. As I said, I did change it so that it drops the lowest exam grade. And it does include this exam that was completely graded. I will say there was a lot of copying and pasting from Google. Like I said last week, I'm not that dumb. I can figure those things out. And so if you guys look here, if you see on the way that I'm gonna basically be checking and what I did on the last exam, though I maybe took off some points from your questions if you copied it and pasted from Google, but on the final, I will give you a 0 for that question if that's the case, okay? So basically I can take your essay question, I copy the text into basically this plagiarism check, and it tells me exactly where that came from, okay? It searches every single internet source. So that's what I'm gonna be doing, just so you know. The other thing is probably this exam was easy, if you guys probably figured that out. And there was a lot of just like short answer, kind of easy recall questions. And so those were easy to Google. Your essays on the final are not going to be like that. Okay. So basically you're probably not going to even be able to Google the answers anyway. Okay. So just wanted to sort of forewarn you guys about that. Remember that the final does not get dropped, right? It's only already where you are right now. The last exam, I dropped one of those exams, but the final exam that grade cannot be dropped. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that? Yes, no, we all understand what I mean by going and Googling an answer and then just copying. I mean, there were people who 100%, now some people are, obviously, I can't prevent you guys from going to Google to look for answers, but in general, it is not smart just to copy the entire thing. So 99% of it or 100% of it is exactly the same as what you read. So that's what people did. And so obviously that's a little concerning. Okay. Well, I need to make sure that we don't know that that's okay, or we know that that's not okay. All right. So like I said, the essays will be sort of more application kind of, or like there'll be fewer, I guess, than this last exam, but probably longer ones. And so they'll be asked in a way that'll sort of make it hard to find the answer on Google. All right. So I want to make sure I told you guys that. All right. So any questions, guys? All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly pull up the 35, 36 homework questions just to give you guys a chance to ask me if you have a question about one of those specifically. And then I'm going to pull up chapter 37 lecture and just go over the brain parts with you that you're going to be responsible for that quiz. And then, like I said, once I get off with you guys, I will upload the recorded lecture for the entire nervous system chapter, which will also include me going over those brain regions again. Okay. All right. So for chapter 35 and 36, do we have any questions? Because again, I already went over these. I think every single one of them. Maybe not, maybe for 36, and I'll go over these last two, or go over these, but I know I went over these for chapter 35. Does anyone have any questions or want me to clarify anything from chapter 35 in general, or even specifically any of these questions here for the homework? Anyone have any questions? No? Okay, so then, like I said, let me just kind of quickly go over 36 because I don't know if that I went over these. Describe 2 advantages of excreting urea instead of ammonia or uric acid. I know I kind of pulled up this figure and probably went over it quickly, but I'll do it again. Okay, this question is referring to basically this picture here, right? And again, I'm pretty sure I did this with you guys, but just sort of to reiterate, right? In terms of the differences between secreting ammonia, urea, and uric acid, and the benefits have to do with how much water you need to excrete these type of chemicals, and also how much energy you need to produce these, right? So remember that these wastes are all, what's the word? they're all synthesized from the breakdown of things like proteins and also nucleic acids. So when your body breaks down proteins, nucleic acids, they end up producing, that's the word I was looking for, nitrogenous wastes. Okay, and the way the body gets rid of those nitrogenous wastes is through that excretory system. Okay, so that first system has to do with this. So I don't know, why doesn't somebody tell me what a benefit is between so excreting urea instead of uric acid? What's one benefit of that? So difference between excreting urea versus uric acid. What would you put down as a benefit if I asked you that on an exam?
There's more water conserved in urea than in the ammonia. And
Good. Yeah, meaning you don't need as much water to excrete. Actually, you don't need as much water to excrete uric acid than you do as urea, right? And right, you need tons and tons of water to excrete ammonia. All right, good. And then what about the energy though? How would you describe that in terms of the difference between uric acid and urea? Which one would require more energy?
Uric acid.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, uric acid. Okay. And again, that's basically due to there being extra chemical reactions necessary to convert that ammonia into uric acid. All right. So hopefully we understand that relationship. So when I say benefits, it's just like, I think, who was that? Mercedes that answered that first about the water? Who was that? Was that?
yeah,
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I recognize your voice there, right? And so it has to do with, so the two things, if I ask you about advantages or benefits or disadvantages regarding this, it has to do with the amount of water needed to excrete it and also the amount of energy that's needed to be put in to convert ammonia into urea or uric acid, okay? For ammonia, there's really no energy needed, right? Because ammonia is essentially the waste that's produced by the breakdown here, right? And fish can just excrete that out automatically. They don't need to then use energy to convert it into something else like urea or uric acid, okay? All right, so what was that? Oh, the next question was about kidneys, I think, right? And their advantage. 4 main reasons the kidneys are organs of homeostasis. And so basically that's asking for those 4 main homeostatic functions of the kidneys, right? Did I skip it? Did I miss it? No, here. Okay. And again, I know I kind of did go over these quickly. So excretion of metabolic waste, that's what we focus most on, right? Or what I focus most on in the chapter in terms of talking about the function of the kidneys and how they excrete these metabolic wastes, and then also maintaining water and salt balance. But the kidneys also are involved in maintaining acid-base balance or pH balance. So why is that important, guys? Somebody tell me why it's important to maintain proper pH. If you just think about blood pH, or what is the pH of the blood?
Is it slightly basic?
Yes, slightly basic. Good. It's like 7.4. So it's, neutral to slightly, very, very slightly basic. And so what happens if that pH, say drops to 7.1 or raises to 7.6? Is that a problem? What do you think? You think it matters?
yeah, and it might not function like properly.
Yeah, I mean, so what would a change in pH do, say, to proteins? And this goes back to us talking about this in Bio 111, right, last semester. What does a change in pH do to proteins? Or can it do? Anyone remember?
Doesn't it like denature them? Like it changes how they look.
Yeah, exactly. It could change their shape, right? Denature them. And if a protein becomes denatured, what happens? Can it work? Can it function?
No.
No, right? So a slight change in pH, and it doesn't have to be much, is basically, it's life-threatening because proteins will start will not work, then you eventually, it leads to organ failure. Okay. And so it's super, a super important thing that that pH is maintained exactly right. I mean, this is true for any type of homeostasis, right? Same thing with water salt balance, super important that that's maintained, right? The other thing the kidneys do is that they secrete hormones. Okay. So erythropoietin, I talk about this a little bit in the recorded lecture, will stimulate red blood cell production. Okay. And so erythropoietin and agents that will stimulate the production of erythropoietin are used in doping in sports, right? Especially in endurance sports. Because if you have more red blood cells, what does that mean for the oxygen carrying capacity of your blood, you think? You think it
It's
might?
higher.
Yeah, it's higher. And so you can carry more oxygen around. It's going to make you a more effective endurance athlete, right? And so, so kidneys are involved in homeostasis by secreting a specific hormone that will stimulate red blood cells. Okay, so you should know or and be aware of these 4 homeostatic functions of the kidneys. Like I said, we focus mostly on these first 2 and then sort of mention these last 2 at the end of the lecture. We don't focus too much on mechanism, right? So I gave you some examples of some, these things are kind of, the reason why we don't focus on them is because they're kind of complicated. But I gave you an example too of another hormone, antidiuretic hormone, okay, ADH, and what it does and how that's sort of related to the function of the kidney, okay? So this is still involved in water salt balance. But then, sorry, why is this doing this? And then, again, this is more sort of hormonal control of water salt balance, right? So you can see how these kind of mechanisms, and when you start to talk about the hormones and how they can help regulate what's happening in the kidney, it gets to be complicated, okay? So I mentioned these things, and I think I tell you in the recording, but, don't go too crazy about knowing the details, but I want you to just be aware that, what sort of hormonal control the kidneys are under, okay? And how that sort of works, not to a ridiculous amount of detail, okay? So try not to get sort of lost in that. And then, like I said, the acid-base balance part of it, really, I don't really talk about that much. It just sort of mentions, there's just really just one slide to talk about that, okay? But most of the focus of this chapter in terms of function of the kidney is this, right? And that leads us, I think, to that last question that I asked you on the homework, sorry, what just happened. I believe, what did I ask you about reabsorption and secretion, the difference between the 2? Yeah. Okay, so why doesn't somebody tell me what is, and I have it kind of up here, but in your own words, how would you, and it doesn't really kind of tell you here, in your own words, how would you describe tubular reabsorption? Or what's happening? Where are things being reabsorbed to, like nutrients? Right, they're in, where are they? We're talking about this, right, this nephron and these tubules, right? So if there are nutrients in the tubules, right, that the body needs, where do they get reabsorbed to? Where do they go?
Is it to the bloodstream?
Yeah, to the blood, right? So again, anything that the body's going to need that's in this filtrate here, right, will get reabsorbed. And what this is showing you, this is like a capillary network around here, right? They'll get reabsorbed into the blood vessels, into the bloodstream. All right, good. And then what about secretion, though? What does that mean? So think about it again. It's things that are in these kidney tubules, right? They're in the filtrate. If they don't get reabsorbed, where are they going to go? Where do they end up? They get secreted out, right? Or excreted out, right? This filtrate eventually is going to go where? We're going to go to the, well, here, let me pull up that picture because we should know the general anatomy too, right? Right? So we're talking about all these things happening in the kidneys. Things get reabsorbed, things that you want to excrete, right, or secrete, they're going to stay in those tubules that are in the nephrons. Remember, the nephrons are just microscopic structures in the kidney. Does anyone remember about how many nephrons in each kidney? 2? How many? Think it's a lot or a little? A lot. 1 million. Over 1 million in one kidney, okay? So anyway, they're all producing, or anything that's in that tubule, those tubules, that's essentially, right, they're producing urine. Those are things that are going to be released, right? So basically, all that stuff that's in the tubules still will end up going to the ureters, right? And then get stored in the bladder and then be excreted out eventually, okay? So hopefully we can sort of grasp the sort of basic function of the kidneys, right? Particularly of the nephron, in terms of these are the 3 main functions that are occurring in the nephron, okay? And so that's what we really focused on mostly in terms of function of the kidney, okay? Like I said, we mentioned those other homeostatic functions, but we don't talk that much, or I don't talk much about the details there. All right, does anyone have any other questions related to chapter 36? No? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up chapter 37. Like I said, I'm just going to go over the brain parts with you and then be on the lookout for that quiz to go up that is just identifying anatomy, okay? And then I will also post that full recording today as well, all right? So be on the lookout for that as well. Make sure you're also always filling out your review sheet when you're listening to those recorded lectures. All right, so let me just pull it up. I believe I have it ready to go. Yeah. Okay, the one thing that I did here was I highlighted basically the parts that you need to know for the quiz in red. Okay, so I'll re-upload this version of this when I do the recorded lecture. Okay, so obviously I'm going to record all the details now, but I just wanted to sort of hit the high points in terms of identifying. Okay, I'm going to use, I guess I'll use the same figures that are here. Just to kind of keep it clear. But to be honest, if I picked another figure like this, I would make sure it was clear what it's showing. But I'll probably most likely use the same one, even though this isn't really the best, most clearest picture, but I'd rather use something that you guys are familiar with. Okay, so in terms of, so what this is, right, if you look at the brain here, this is cutting it down the middle, right? And obviously then it's a cartoon of it. It's also showing you the skull on the outside, right? And then also something else that basically surrounds the brain, that's basically in between the brain tissue and the skull. And so what is that called?
Is that the brain fluid?
Yes, that's in there too. Yep. So the meninges are sort of these 3 layers, right? Or you're going to think of them as membranes that are there. But in between them, yes, there's fluid called cerebrospinal fluid, right? That will run in between these. And yeah, so we won't worry about the 3 different types of meninges or whatever, or the 3 layers, right? Just know that this is the meninges. And then, right, there's cerebrospinal fluid that runs through there, and that acts as shock absorption, right? So if your brain tissue was right against the skull and you didn't have this layer of fluid in there, every time you jumped, your brain's going to hit the top of your skull. You're going to have basically, a traumatic brain injury every time you're walking around, not even jump, every time you went for a run or went for a walk or anything like that, right? So that's there for that shock absorption. So we should be able to, from this diagram, identify meninges, okay? And then some major brain parts. So this is just showing you here this whole part as being the cerebrum, okay? Now, we will then, I'm going to come back to this. We will also talk about different parts of the cerebrum or the cerebral cortex, okay? So you're going to be responsible for just identifying these different lobes, but let's come back to that, okay? Let's just talk about some of these internal structures that I want you guys to be able to identify, okay? So here, and you can see this is kind of beigey looking. This is more gray matter, although this is kind of a little misleading in terms of the colors here. So forget I even said that. We'll call this the cerebrum. This is the corpus callosum. So this should look pretty white because it actually is a white matter tract that will connect the right and the left hemispheres, right? So neurons on one side of the brain can send signals to the other side, and they basically cross the hemispheres through this corpus callosum. Okay, so we should be able to identify that. If we sort of move down here, so this is actually kind of, it doesn't really look like space, but this is space here, which we call the lateral ventricle. And in that ventricle, there's cerebral spinal fluid. So remember we talked about the cerebral spinal fluid here on the outside. Well, it also runs through this ventricular system of the brain. And that sort of bathes the brain tissue, supports, sort of nourishes. It's not blood supply. There's also a blood supply to the brain, but this is different, okay, the cerebral spinal fluid. All right, then if you kind of move, so now we're sort of moving down, right? So think about this as the top of your head, and now we're moving down, right, towards the neck, okay? So here's sort of the base of the skull, or kind of, this is the towards the back, right? And this is towards the front, okay? Does that make sense, everyone? So here's your, you know, your face, your eyes are gonna be over here. And again, this is the back of your head, okay? And this is towards the bottom, moving down towards the neck and towards the spinal cord, okay? So thalamus here, right? So here's the thalamus. Right here is hypothalamus. And I will go through functions of these in the recorded lecture. You can think of the thalamus as a relay station in terms of information coming in from the spinal cord and from the rest of the body, and then getting sent to other parts of the brain. Hypothalamus is the main sort of homeostasis regulator, right? It's going to control the pituitary gland here and basically control the endocrine system. Also controls things like hunger, body temperature, all those kind of things are sort of regulated here by the hypothalamus. Okay, so thalamus, hypothalamus, and then we move down here. So now you're in the brain stem, right? All of these are part of the brain stem. So this is midbrain, pons, and then medulla oblongata, right? And then down to the spinal cord. Also here, which sort of sits off the back and it kind of looks like a little mini brain, that's the cerebellum. Right? Any questions about that, guys? We should be, so again, for that quiz, it's really just a picture, identify, right? Be able to identify these parts from the picture. Okay? Questions? All right. So like I said, I also want you to be able to identify some main parts of the cerebrum or the cerebral cortex. Usually we just call it the cortex, which is up here. Okay? So again, front of the brain, right? So front towards the back, and you can see here sitting the cerebellum, right? Here's your brainstem, and then going down to the spinal cord. So we want to be able to identify these main lobes of the brain, okay? So frontal lobe is here, this whole area. See this little gray line here? It goes from here to here. This is all the frontal lobe. And you can see then these are all components of the frontal lobe, okay? So whatever's in red, you guys are responsible for being able to identify, okay? So here's the frontal lobe. Here, this blue area is the primary motor area of your frontal cortex. And so we should be able to identify that. You can also see that there's sort of corresponding regions to different areas of the body, okay? All right, this is the central sulcus. So meaning it's gonna divide, it's sort of a ridge, mean ridge that divides the frontal lobe. And then this is the parietal lobe from here to here, okay? And then in orange is the primary somatosensory cortex, meaning information that's coming in from all these different parts of the body, sensory information, is going to go here, okay? Then if we move down here, occipital lobe, okay? And again, you can see the visual area, a visual association area as part of the occipital lobe. And then over here, which is kind of like the temple, kind of the side, sort of think of it kind of, I guess, right above your ear, but sort of behind it, is the temporal lobe, okay? And so we should be able to identify that temporal lobe here. So this is temporal lobe, this is occipital, parietal, and frontal, okay? In terms of like, I'm not gonna ask you, these parts that are in black here, I'm not gonna ask you to be able to identify exactly where those are, just what's in red. Any questions about that, guys?
No.
Okay, so like I said, I will then go through this entire recorded lecture and post it up by the end of today. So make sure you guys listen to that. And obviously I'll talk about the functions of some of those brain regions without trying to get in too much detail, right? So when you want to know more detail, you can take neurobiology. But, you know, I can try to give you a little bit of an overview here. I mean, in anatomy and physiology, you'll go over nervous system as well. But anyway, there's definitely a decent amount of detail in this chapter, but I try to kind of lay off of it as much as I can. So that's pretty much it. Okay, guys. So I just wanted to make sure I went over those parts of the brain because I'm going to be putting up that quiz. That'll probably be due by Sunday, depending on when I get it up. Okay, but it'll be a quick 10 question or so quiz. Let me just make sure that I didn't miss anything, but I pretty much think I got everything that I wanted to go over with you guys today. So on Thursday, we will meet at 12:30 instead of 1 o'clock, unless I get some responses that like a whole bunch of you have a problem with it. I also remembered, and we'll see how this works, to record this. I always forget to hit record. I always have the intention of doing that and posting the recordings in case you missed the Zoom meeting, but I've yet to do that until today. So anyway, I will try to figure out how to post that. I think it's just a little bit of a little wonky in terms of finding the file, but I should be able to post that on Moodle as well. Okay, so your chapter 37 homework is due on Thursday, guys. The chapter 35 and 36 homework was due now, already due. And I will post the recording for chapter 37. Be on the lookout for that anatomy of the brain quiz or brain anatomy quiz, whatever you want to call it. All right. We will next cover locomotion. So probably on Thursday, I'll review chapter 37 a little bit more. We'll go over the homework questions. We'll review chapter 37. Any questions that you might have, let me know. Try to post them in the question and answer forum. Let me just make sure I put up a final exam kind of topic. Yeah. So remember, any questions that you have related to the final exam content, try to remember to put them here. Okay. All right, guys, does anyone have any other questions? I'll stay on for a few minutes if anyone has individual questions. Okay, otherwise, I'll see you guys Thursday at 12:30. Thanks, guys.
I have a question about
Sure.
one of my grades.
Yeah.
It was for my heart dissection assignment.
Yeah, you were missing part of it. Did you add it?
How though? If I submitted the path of blood flow and also the heart work, the heart worksheet.
Yeah, obviously I didn't see the one. I for whatever I could tell, I'll look. I didn't see the path of blood flow through the heart. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because
obviously I'm gonna give you a 50 if both are there.
it
Yeah,
says
look
that I
at
didn't label the parts of the heart, but I did. I have 2 of my assignments on there.
Yeah, no, but when I clicked on both of them, it doesn't show what you're missing, the labeling, right? It doesn't show the labels. It's like just blank, I think.
Oh, okay.
Look at it, because like I said, I think that's what the issue was. Look at it, and if it looks up right on your end, then send me an email and I'll look at it again, all right? Something must be, but that's what it was. I don't think I saw the actual parts labeled on yours.
Okay.
Okay, let me stop my share. I'll look at it right now, Valerie. Let me look at it right now, okay? Don't get off. Let me see what I see on my end. But I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Let me double check. You're still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just double check. I think that's what it was. I don't see the labels. I see that you had 2 files, but then the one I think was empty. It probably is just, wait. What the heck is that stupid assignment? 1 second. I'll find it. I closed all my weeks. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Because I mean, I did label the heart. I'm looking at it right now.
So that PDF, it's the PDF, right? Of the, okay, so now I see it. So for whatever reason, maybe when I pulled it up on Moodle, like the view there, it didn't show it, but when I just downloaded the PDF, I see it. All right, I'll fix it.
Okay.
That's why, that's why I put those comments in there, just so then that way we can figure it out. But let me fix it right now before I get off with you.
Okay.
Otherwise
Thank you.
I'll forget. Yeah. Shoot, what did I just do? 1 second. Now I went off my, you stupid thing. How is it possible that I went off? There it is. All right. Let me fix it right now. All right. Let me just see if that's what it does. I think, I don't know why Moodle's a pain in my, yeah. So that's why. On the preview of it, it doesn't show it, but when I download it, it shows it. So, okay.
Oh,
Sorry
okay.
about that. Yep. I mean, I figured you probably did it since you had those 2 files, but for some reason I couldn't see it. All right, it's fixed.
Thank you.
You got it. Sorry about that.